And I have an inspirational reading. I'm taking it from the Daily Word from July and August of 2022 because it's where I found it. Okay, it is. I am a peacemaker. I bless the world with prayers of peace. I close my eyes and envision the world's people aglow with the light of love. I see us living in harmony, finding comfort in our similarities while respecting our differences. I bless the world with peaceful actions. I bless the world by treating others as they wish to be treated. Being a peacemaker means peace begins with me, but is not for me alone. My peaceful thoughts and actions bless the world. And from John 20:21, Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." Peace is a blessing. So I encourage all of us to continuously pray about peace. And today we have a guest speaker speaking on God is blessings. And she's a leader here, a teacher, a prayer, a person who prays. And she does wonderful creative work in our office, so she's an organizer. And so help me to welcome leader, teacher, enterprise counselor Jennifer Allen-Prather, speaking on God is blessings. Thank you. Yeah. Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
God is blessings. We are blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed to be here. So what does it mean to be blessed? Well, we all have our own version of blessing. But the noun, as shown in dictionary.com, is listed as in several areas. The act or words of a person who blesses. Okay, what does that mean? A special favor, mercy, or benefit. A favor or gift bestowed by God, thereby bringing happiness, and that's the one I'm speaking on today. The invoking of God's favor upon a person, that also I'm speaking of today. Praise, devotion, worship, especially grace said before a meal, that's a blessing. Approval or good wishes, all those things are blessings. I've had several blessings in my life. I'd say my life is a blessing. I once had a person who read the tarot cards who said, "You're on vacation this time around." In other words, I reincarnated according to her, and I decided to take a break. Well, I've had my share of challenges, don't get me wrong. But my life is a blessing. Even the challenges are a blessing to me. I recently had a really wonderful blessing happen, and that was that I believe I had told several of you that my friend decided to buy cruise tickets for three of her good friends. And I had not met the other two, and one of them was to be my roommate. And so I thought, well, love goes before me to pave the way. I know that my roommate will be the perfect one. My goodness, what a blessing this person was. Her name is Ruthie, who happens to be my mother's name. So right off the bat, I knew Ruthie was an incredible roommate. But I didn't know how much of a blessing she would be to me. We met, I had boarded the ship. It was on a cruise to Mexico, to the Mexican Riviera out of San Diego, on the Koningsdam, which is the part of the Holland America line. Beautiful flagship, gorgeous ship, built around 2016, I believe, was a newer ship. And I got situated in our cabin. It was a beautiful porthole, although it's a big, huge window. And I heard this knocking on the door and went, "You, Jennifer." Not familiar with the voice. And I said, "Ruthie?" She said, "Yeah." And we hit it off. We just had the best time together. We went on walks around the deck. It was like being in I don't know if you've ever attended a slumber party, at least for the women. It's like being with your best girlfriend at a slumber party. We would talk way beyond into midnight, and just talk and talk and talk. And we had so much in common. She was the best companion, and we turned out to be fast friends. And I felt as if I'd known her forever. And we met again just recently at another little party that the friend who bought our tickets held, and we were just as connected. And we plan on staying fast friends from now on. That was a huge blessing. That's one that I never thought would happen. Another huge blessing came when I was going through one of the ship's shops. You may or may not know I'm a shopper. And there were some great bargains there, and my friend Barbara and I were looking at the bargains, and this woman steps up and she says, "Do you know anything about this?" And then all of a sudden, I looked in her eyes, and they were just, it was like looking at an angel. Her name was Kanae. It still is Kanae. But she and I just had this connection. Have you ever had that happen? Where you meet somebody for the first time and it's instant connection. Instant connection. Well, it turns out that we were going to be having dinner that evening in the main dining room. We invited Kanae and her companion, Robert, to come and have dinner with us. Well, that was at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and she did come. She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I didn't know that we had reservations in this other restaurant. Could we get together for breakfast the next morning?" I said, "Of course." So Ruthie and I and no, I don't think Barbara was there then, came down and joined Kanae and Robert for breakfast. And it turns out that Kay told me that she had a healing center at one time. She was very much into metaphysics, and she had met one of the teachers that our co-founder, Dr. Ann Meyer McKeever, met, who taught how to table tip. And her name was Adele Tinney.
Yes.
So Kanae actually did table tipping with Adele Tinney. And that was decades ago. And so, but Kanae is one of these just vibrant, alive, young souls, just beautiful soul. And she lives in Mexico in this beautiful home that she and her husband had built. And she invited me to come stay with her sometime. So I'm going to keep in touch with her because I felt this great kinship with her. It was automatic. So these are the two big blessings, along with the trip itself, that I hold dear in my heart. these connections with these beautiful people. And of course, my dear friend Barbara, who I love dearly and I've known for a long time. Let's just say that. And she's given me a lot of great gifts, and that was one of them. So God is blessings. And thinking about blessings, I remembered that we had done a book study, at least several of us had. I didn't, but on the Gentle Art of Blessing. It's a book by Pierre Pradervand. Sorry, that was easy for you to say. A simple practice that will transform you and your world. And I thought it was a book that pertained to this particular topic of God as blessings. And in his book, he talks about several things, but I first of all want to read on the back of this. It'll give you a synopsis of just what this book is about. These are testimonials. One is, this is a book I can highly recommend. It is a book of silent action. It is something we can all do, and do it all the time when we remember. So often we have to be reminded, and this book can remind us. And that's from Elaine Caddy, the author of Opening Doors Within, and co-founder of Findhorn in Scotland. You may or may not know about that, but look it up. It's fascinating. Elaine Caddy, C-A-D-D-Y. Then another one. This is a simple, democratic, grassroots spiritual practice that gradually brings more love into the life of the person who practices it and into the world. The Gentle Art of Blessing is an antidote for resentments and an invitation to become a bigger soul. And that's from Jean Shinoda Bolen, MD, a Jungian analyst, and author of Goddesses in Every Woman. And the last one, The Gentle Art of Blessing, changed my thought process. After reading it, I just started asking God to bless all the people. Roger W. McGowan, death row inmate in Texas. Pretty powerful stuff. So in this book, Pierre Pradervand said he was employed working, how he got a start in all of this, he was employed working in a Swiss school system. He faced a moral and ethical dilemma, and when he found out, which gave him no choice but to quit. And then he later found out that certain people there had set up that situation so that he would have to quit. From this event, he became consumed with resentment. Has anybody ever had that happen? You're just consumed with it. I have. All he could focus on daily was this all-consuming resentment. It drained him and robbed him of any peace. So we're the ones that pay for it, aren't we? When we're consumed with that. One day his inner Christ, I call it his inner Christ, fed him Jesus' Sermon on the Mount from Matthew 5:44 in the Bible. Bless them that curse you, Jesus said. Sorry about that. That was the start of his healing of this toxic anger, the resentment and the victimhood that he felt. He realized he needed to bless those that seemingly hurt him. I once had a friend who said to me, and I didn't like it, but it was true. He said, I don't have the power to hurt you. Only I have the power to hurt me. Right at that moment, he started to bless them for health, joy, finances, work, family relations, peace, abundance, and all good. In other words, he got into detail about blessing. He didn't just say bless you. He got into the nitty-gritty of it. He was wishing earnestly from the bottom of his heart for the very best for them, for their complete happiness and fulfillment. Can you imagine? From going from such a toxic resentment to complete fulfillment and happiness for them. What a turnaround. When it comes from the heart sincerely, that is the power that transforms, elevates, and heals. After a few months, he had created a habit of blessing everyone he saw or thought of. And after I started reading this book, I've been doing that now. Every day. And guess how that makes me feel? Yeah. So because of this constant blessing, miracles started to happen in his business dealings. And before I go into this, I wanted to let you know that there are some people that say, I can't let go of this. It's too hard. What if I can't let go of it? Well, you can call on your inner Christ to do it for you. You can call on Jesus. You can call on your God. You can call on angels. And eventually, your heart will soften so that it will allow you to do that. But I want to read something out of his book on page 126 and 127. It was an example of how blessing could change a person around. And it doesn't change the person, it changes the person who's doing the blessing. But in doing so, it changes the whole atmosphere, the whole environment. So he writes, on page 124 and 125, when beauty is hard to see, deep inside the most hardened criminal, the most cruel tyrant, the most indifferent, cynical, disillusioned person resides infinite and hidden beauty, which that person is often the first to ignore. The following story, taken from A Century of Christian Science Healing, illustrates this affirmation with a concrete example. The narrator is an English officer who directed a naval detention center for rebellious conscripts and deserters during World War II. One day, the center received a particularly difficult case, a violent man court-martialed as a habitual deserter. This inmate ran foul of all forms of authority, smashing everything in his cell. Can you imagine? Window and light included. Even tearing his uniform to shreds. He would strike the staff at the first opportunity and simply refuse to cooperate. His behavior was completely antisocial, an extreme case of rebellion against all forms of discipline. Punishments seemed to have no effect on him whatsoever. The officer explained that the psychiatrist, chaplain, school teacher, and he had all attempted in vain to reason with the man. All human means having failed, the director then decided to attempt a spiritual approach. And he prayed 3 hours non-stop for the inmate. He was led to go back to the prison, feeling that he was going with the power of the Spirit with a capital S, yet not knowing what to do. Just before midnight, he called the guard to unlock the cell, and then sent him on his rounds. Risky business. His story continues. Upon going in, I saw the man still on the floor, motionless. I went over to him in the dim light and stood over him. The thought came to me, I'm sure from his inner Christ, right there is the Son of God. Right there is the Son of God. I held this thought to the best of my ability for 15 minutes. Neither of us said a word. I then went out and called the warden to go in and release him, give him a wash, some fresh clothes, and his bed, and turn him in. The next day, the man was completely transformed. He was friendly and obedient to regulations. He had to stand trial for an injury inflicted on someone before coming to the prison, and he was condemned to 2 years into civil prison. Later, the director received a letter from the inmate thanking the personnel of the prison for what they had done for him. A man who had arrived spewing hatred and venom and had been transformed into a new person because someone had cared enough to affirm and spiritually maintain with total conviction his hidden inner perfection. Pretty powerful.
That's amazing.
These are true stories, all of them in this book. Now it's your turn to think of a time when you may have faced a challenge and perhaps defaulted to a defensive mode or become angry or resentful. Now, do you have that in your mind? Think about it for a moment. With the situation in your mind, start blessing the person or persons in every way. Just as Pierre, the author, had done. Every single minute way you can think of blessing, or ask your inner Christ to do it. How does that feel to you now? How do you feel after that? Before, resentment, anger, lack of peace in your mind. After, peace, love, joy, release, calm, balance. Before, after, pro and con. You get it. So let it sink in and do it again at home. Just give yourself 5 or 10 minutes and do it again at home. And practice until you feel healed of it. So what else can we do to build our spiritual blessing practice? Number 1, when we wake up in the morning, bless the day filled with unseen good. Bless the day. Number 2, when we pass people, wherever we are, bless them with sincerest love for their highest good. I remember yesterday when I was walking in the neighborhood, I looked up and there was an airplane in the sky. Just going along, it was a little 2-winged airplane, and bless you, and all of those in the plane. It just felt so good to do that. When we meet and talk with people, bless their health, their work, their joy, abundance, finances in every way, bless them. As we walk around our neighborhood and city, bless its government, teachers, children, doctors, nurses, street sweepers. You get my drift. If something seems to go awry in your day, start blessing. Start blessing. If you should pass by a prison, I know there's one in Santee, it's a women's prison. Bless the prison and the prisoners in it. If you go into a hospital or by a hospital, by all means, bless that hospital and the patients in it, and the doctors and the nurses, everyone in that hospital, for their highest good. And last but not least, bless your magnificent, beautiful self. Since God is blessings, and we are one with God, we must also be blessing or bringing blessings to others. Let's know that we are the blessing because we are God. Blessing all along the way. Thank you for your time today.